everybody. It is welcome to our holiday special. I have with me some great fellow Christmas special lovers here, including Culture Shots, the fabulous Christy Winters, and Some Random Geek. And if you guys want to go around and just say hello and introduce yourself, go ahead.
Why don't we go in the order that she gave us? So is that
yeah.
Hank?
That's you first, Hank. All right, we lost Hank. Christy, go ahead.
Hey everyone, I'm Christy. I have a YouTube channel. I like to talk about politics and feminism, but today we're talking about Christmas specials and I think things from our childhood. So this should be an uplifting and delightful conversation in contradiction to the rest of things that are going on in the world right now. So a little safe space for about an hour to think about holiday things.
Hello, I am SomeRandomGeek. Hi, and I'm here to talk about movies and sure Christmas specials as well. And how's everyone?
Good.
Also good.
And Hank, do we have you back yet? Where'd you go? Oh dear. Well, I'm sure he will be back at some point anyway. Great, so let's say hi to everybody in the chat already. Hello. And anybody can feel free to just send this out. So the more the merrier. All right. So
I'm not back. Sorry.
Oh, Hank, come on and come on and introduce yourself then.
Yeah, all right. My name is Henk Jan Vinke. I have a small channel, Culture Shots, which is about culture and how it defines us and how it's being hijacked by strange people trying to get their point across, which is often not the way the artist intended. So, and this is also, I think, why we have Culture Club. So to properly talk about culture, what it actually, well, what we think it means and how it can be good for you. So, hi.
So we're here to make culture? Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to be asking some questions, and then I'll have people just go around and say what they think. So I guess the first question should just be, which holiday movies, specials, or whatever, which mean the most to you, and if you wanted to say a little something about them.
All right.
And we'll start with Hank.
We'll start with me. This is one film which I have a small playlist on my channel now, which is full of Christmas things I love from my childhood. One of the things which really stuck with me is a Dutch animation film, and for the longest time it was the only feature-length animation film in the Netherlands. And it's, if you understand what I mean, where an elderly bear, it's like an anamorphized bear. He's very popular in the Netherlands. He's called Olivier Bommel. And he finds this small little dragon and he starts taking care of him. And then the dragon kind of changes, like in size. It becomes really, really big sometimes when it gets really angry and destroys everything. So it wreaks havoc like in the town. And I watched that for years, every year with on Christmas. And it was, I still get a warm, I think many people in my generation get a warm feeling of when we see the film.
Does it have a happy ending though? Because you kind of left with it destroying the town. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it's kind of bittersweet because he has to let go. The little dragon finds his mother, but yeah, I mean the bear needs to let go of his little friend, so it's also a bit sad. So it's kind of both. Yeah, it's happy ending, but also with a sad tinge. So that's my childhood, my major childhood, movie, so to speak.
And Christy.
Well, in doing research for this series, I actually came across something I forgot, and I don't know if it will technically count, but I came across the 1974 album, physical LP of Walt Disney's A Christmas Carol with Duck McScrooge playing Ebenezer Scrooge.
I remember that one. Yes, I love that one.
Exactly. And I listened to it, and it's even got all the pops on the album. And I listened to it, and I remember I listened to this so many times as a kid, over and over and over, because I lived in the middle of freaking nowhere. And we had a record player and maybe 25 albums. And, 5 of those were Christmas albums, and 3 were kids, albums. But that one in particular, it was funny because when I was listening to it, I started singing along, and I didn't even know I remembered the words until the music started up. And then there was a couple times, sadly, when the album must have just been, so damaged that it skipped. And I immediately knew what text, like the script that was gone. Like, oh, they didn't say, and about the bells of London or whatever. So I really have unconsciously memorized that. And listening to it really brought me back to the late 1970s. And that rural Wisconsin house. I mean, I can picture the Christmas tree with the multicolored lights. This was before all white lights was cool. This is when every single, yellow, green, red, blue, right? And you just see like the carpeting and the big ass television. I mean, it was the size of a cabinet. Well, a small, coffee table now. But so yeah, that I guess. Anytime before this, I would have said something else, but because you picked today when I found it, that's what I'm going to say.
Oh, that's sweet. That's yeah. Good memories.
Yeah, man, it's like I wanted to try to find the Disney Christmas Carol, no, Mickey's Christmas Carol with Scrooge McDuck as like Ebenezer Scrooge, and because I remember the Ghost of Christmas Past, Ghost of Christmas. No, it goes to the Christmas Goes to Future. Blah, 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 blah. It was so menacing to me and like almost scared me as a child when I saw it. But that wasn't one that we were reoccurringly watching as a family tradition around Christmas time. No, those movies were that it was not a Christmas Carol, but it was the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm always a fan of Michael Caine, no matter what terrible movie he does nowadays or something like that. It's just like other Christmas favorites in our family. We did have the cassette tape as well of like the Disney characters like singing along to the Christmas songs, and so like 12 Days of Christmas and stuff like that. And so those are my childhood memories. But like, yeah, mostly it's just like Christmas Carol, Muppets Christmas Carol, then A Christmas Story, and afterwards, a bit later, it's now been 25 years since The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes. Which I think is more of a Halloween film, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's
it's both.
Yes,
but I don't think you get 15 favorites. I think, but just to say,
who says?
Well, in that case, no.
Yeah, Chrissy, how about you? What one have you been holding on to this whole time we've been talking?
Well, I think I'm a little different, and I think it's because my depression often affects me around the holidays, and I find a lot of the different things that come out kind of a little bit much. So, but there is like there are some Christmas songs out there that are real bummers, that are really depressing and dark, like Tom Waits, and some people like that. And I have a sort of mini Christmas tradition where I just sit around and listen to really depressing Christmas songs. So it's sort of like a purification from all the saccharineness that goes on, which is not to say that I don't love and am not fascinated with Christmas specials. It just, after a certain point in the year, it gets a bit much, and then I have to like do this thing where it's gotta go, it's enough.
Also, I think our relationship to Christmas changes as adults. There are more complicated emotions as we experience life. And so I think that part of Christmas is actually a really important one, and one that obviously, because there's enough songs to get you through the night, it's a common one as well. So it's an experience that a lot of people can relate to, whether it's, Baby Please Come Home or whatever. There's a lot of sometimes sad things around Christmas. It's a very stressful time of year for a lot of people.
Mm.
That's why there's death metal, as Pascal in the chat just said.
Oh, and speaking of people in the chat. I think, Hank, we have a request for you to show off your sweater.
Oh yes. All right. It's this is my Star Trek Christmas sweater. So let's see if I can look at it.
Make it snow.
Make it snow.
Make it snow.
I'm sorry, could you do that one more time? But could Christiosity lock the screen? Because when we make noise, then you get turned off. So one more time, one more for the show, for the peoples.
All right, wait a second. I don't know how to lock a screen.
Click on his little, the little avatar on the bottom right-hand side.
Yep,
just click on his, and it should turn white.
Yes.
And now he's only being displayed no matter what you see on our screens.
Okay, here we go again. Oh,
all right.
My thing is stuck. Wait a minute.
Yeah, so it says "Make it snow," which is a great pun on the Star Trek.
Here it is.
Make it snow.
There we go.
Make it snow.
I saw this for sale, and I waited for the longest time because it's kind of a frivolous purchase. Because this is not something you wear daily. And then it was sold out, and I was so sad that when it got back, they had one in my size. I had to buy it. I mean,
when you felt sadness because you could no longer own it, that's when you knew it was really belonged to you.
Yeah, that's when I knew it was important to me. So, Captain Picard, I'm rewatching Star Trek as we speak, and I love him as a character. So, and it made me happy. Puns are great.
Yes.
Did they have Christmas specials on Star Trek too?
Not that I know.
Not overtly ones, okay.
No, because it's trying to be secular, which.
Well, yeah, but there is also like a lot of pressure. Well, it's quite a common trope in American long programs, around the Christmas holiday or New Year's. Have some sort of redemption story, even in the season, just the spirit of the season. So.
Somewhere in the back of my mind, there's this tickling of a Ferengi episode, but I don't really remember.
Where's Steve Shives when we?
Yeah, Steve, get over here.
Exactly.
We have questions.
I'll get back to you because I'm rewatching every episode. So.
All right.
Well, there is someone has pointed out there's definitely a Star Wars Christmas special, though. Technically,
that made no one's list. That made no one's list in this room.
That is for Life Day.
Yes.
That is also punishment. I think that's what you have to watch when you're on a timeout.
Yeah.
You sit in the corner and you watch the Star Wars Christmas special for 5 minutes. Please, Mom, just 3. Okay, 4. All right, 4, but then you're really going to be good after this, right?
The one who came up with the Wookiee conversations.
Oh, it's so dumb.
I mean,
with no subtitles. Like,
there's a lot of cocaine going around that writer's room. Things we missed.
Okay. There is one good thing about the holiday Star Wars special. It makes us appreciate how great of an entertainer B. Arthur was.
B. Arthur, I must say, yeah. Well, I love
it
B.
wasn't
Arthur.
her greatest work.
Well, relative to what she was compared with,
Yeah.
In that,
I mean, she held her own.
Yes.
I remember her. The rest is just I mean, it's like Harrison Ford was held hostage because he was there. And it's like, ugh. But yeah.
I'm glad we have B. Arthur in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
that's canon.
I'm glad that she exists there.
Well, by the way, she's a badass. She was in the army. She was quite the lady.
But back to regular Christmas specials that we actually enjoy.
All right. So I'm going to start out with this question. And should we, you know what, I'll bring it to Christy first next time. And then we can just go around kind of in the same way, but just moving it around each time. All right. So it'll be Christy, SomeRandomGeek, and then Hank. And so my question is, assuming that you would agree that the Christmas special, Christmas movie is a genre onto itself, would you also say that the Christmas Carol was sort of the progenitor? And if so, what kind of themes and ideas and tropes do you think that it is lended to other Christmas specials?
That's an excellent question. And I think yes, it is. I think all stories about all Christmas specials, as it were, got their the door that was opened by Dickens. And I think that the wonderful thing about the Dickens story and why it ended up universalizing a very religious holiday is that he presented common human values that are associated with lots of religions, but in particular, people try to want to associate it with Christmas, and made a story about those things set at a Christmas time and a Christmas theme, but without really being religious. And that, I think, made it possible for other secular stories to do very similar things and with widespread acceptance. Mm-hmm. So you get the Charlie Brown Christmas, and you get a lot of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas. But all of them, at the end of the day, do have a sense of redemption, which you can, I think, trace immediately back to the Ebenezer Scrooge story. And probably that redemption, now that I think about it as I'm talking my way through it, is Christians see the parallel with Jesus. But you can divorce Jesus of the notion of redemption, because we all mess up in our lives. And so we all at some point need redemption, and we recognize the preciousness of being redeemed in the eyes of others, people who forgive you and you're able to move on. That's actually a really, really precious thing in a relationship. And so I think that concept in terms of us being social beings is something that taps into something very primal and universal.
I think that's a good point about the sort of secularism in particular. I had never really thought about it that way. So that's good point. All right, some random geek.
I try.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's definitely the Christmas Carol. That's the genesis of like the Christmas kind of story. Because what came before that? For Christians, it was the nativity, and whatever the pagans celebrate. Unfortunately, I don't know much about that. My apologies. And yeah, and I think I do like what Christy Winters has said, is that like it's definitely redemption. It's because as a Catholic, I can definitely say asking for forgiveness is kind of one element of Catholicism that I like. I hate the fact that we are automatically guilty just for being born. But that's another topic for later. And so, but having that's kind of like idea concept in the trapping of just a normal like Christmas story or a holiday story and something like that, I think is good. And I do like the fact that like a Christmas Carol, just like Shakespeare, can be retold several times and in different settings as well. So that's theme of redemption and asking for forgiveness can be there, and it is possible for anyone to be redeemed and be forgiven and something like that. So yeah. I have nothing much more to add.
All right, Hank.
Well, I completely agree with Christy. That I don't have much to add to that. Besides that, something we touched on the previous episode with "It's a Wonderful Life," which is basically like an inversion of, because it's a very good man that's been shown what would happen if he wasn't there, and so yeah. In complete agreement with Christy. That's all I have to say.
All right. So I'm sure that there were Christmas stories before Charles Dickens, but I think that in terms of our culture now, that A Christmas Carol is definitely the progenitor, the granddaddy of the Christmas.
There's also, isn't there, I want to say O. Henry, but it's not, maybe he's not the author. Also a British writer, though, because it's about a husband and wife who are so damn poor. And she has what she values is her long hair, and she sells it to buy him a watch.
The Gift of the Magi, I think is what that's called.
The title, yeah. And then the husband sells his watch in order to buy her a comb. And they open up their Christmas presents and they're both completely useless. Or something for his pocket watch. And so, yeah, that notion of giving beyond measure is also captured in that.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things. What is, I think there's a Gothic flavor to A Christmas Carol that you can see in other Christmas movies, and I think it probably at least somewhat comes from there.
Definitely culminates in the Christmas, whatever the Halloween, the Tim Burton movie. What's it called again?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
It really culminates in that, doesn't it? Sort of the seeds planted by Dickens.
If you want an interesting Tim Burton Christmas film, by the way, Batman Returns is also one. I just suddenly realized that. I'm sorry, it's a bit off topic, but
no, it's all right.
Edward Scissorhands as well. Isn't that Edward Scissorhands also Christmas?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He has a thing for Christmas apparently,
and Gothic.
And Gothic, yeah. So Gothic Christmas thing, yeah. There we go.
And I would also say another thing that comes from it is that, and I think Some Random Geek touched on this a little bit, sort of the tension that is created that A Christmas Carol is really not a pro-capitalist movie, and a lot of Christmas movies are not pro-capitalist or not pro-consumerist, but they also take place within the most consumerist holiday that we have, right? It's kind of I find that tension a difficult one, you know.
If you look at, for instance, Trading Places, which has like this similar idea of redemption, that film, to me, I love that film. There's some problematic blackface, and which really didn't. Last time I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, that's not good." But when Eddie Murphy goes to do the new job, and actually said, "Oh, you're actually a bookies." It's actually they're a bookies office for rich people, and there you see like the two systems of government. On one hand, which is oppressive, and on the other hand, for rich people, it's like they can pretty much do whatever they want, which I think, well, it is interesting that's one of it's a major hit. How to say this? A lot of Hollywood Christmas movies are anti-capitalist in the most capitalist way.
Yes.
That's Christmas as well. It's just how capitalism can just like exacerbate or just like accentuate certain elements of it, like our need to buy and stuff like that. Which is why I guess we can touch on this later. But some of my favorite Christmas movies, like Pascal mentioned in the chat, his favorite Christmas movie is Gremlins. It's kind of like the anti-Christmas movies, if you were.
Well, in that way, our Christmas special is actually slightly subversive. You know, but on that, when I watched your trailer for the Trading Places when you post on your list, and because it's quite long, and just to your point about what you said about the blackface being problematic and other things in there, but one thing I watched with 21st century eyes and going, gee, that was kind of forward thinking. There's a scene where Don Amici and the other old white guy, can't remember his name, are explaining the products that they're selling. He's pointing out pork bellies to Eddie Murphy, saying, pork bellies, this is why we would make bacon from a bacon like you would find in a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. And then there's a shot of just Eddie Murphy he looks up and breaks the fourth wall and looks at the camera, is like, how dumb does this white guy think I am? You know? And I just thought, I wonder how white audiences reacted to that when it first came out. You know,
it's
a white splaining here before white splaining was a term, you know.
Exactly.
So, kind of, you know, since it's sort of come up, how do we deal with problematic elements in some of our old ones? I mean, I also love Gremlins, but I know that it's a little racist. Like there's some racism there, right? And it's just something like I might cringe a bit at it and then just keep going because the movie overall I love, and I can still enjoy it, or I find that I can still enjoy it, probably because I watched it when I was a kid, and it was, you know, of course, when I was a kid, I watched it actually when it first came out because I'm old, and it was at it actually came out, I think, June or July or something. And so we saw it. We had a drive-in. So I remember seeing it at a drive-in and just loving the shit out of it, even though it was this just ridiculously bad for children movie. But what the hell, you know? So, but you know, now I see they're eating the fried chicken and doing the break dancing or whatever they're doing, and the gremlins, and you go, okay.
That whole scene at the bar was weird anyway.
Yeah, that's awesome. But not really.
Yeah.
Well, for people who, somebody asked me, so the gremlins are coded as black, right? They are frequently coded as black, and they're given very stereotypical black things to do, you know, and keep in mind the gremlins are like 2 days old, you know, like they're babies, but somehow they figured out how to do that. And in context with that, and also in context with the gremlins being they're these creatures that mimic humans without ever being able to be humans. So they're not like people, but they act like people. They pretend to be people. Like, so those things together are kind of like, oh, that's a little cringy. That's cringy. But okay, I'm all right with that. I'm gonna just enjoy it anyway.
Some random geek up. I think it's his turn to go first.
Go for it.
It's kind of interesting that you mentioned of like how do we deal with our problematic aspects, because the real reason I want to be on this hangout is just so that, like, because in the last hangout of like Wonderful Life, Hank mentioned like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is one of my favorite Christmas movies. I've seen that movie. Hank is an awesome movie. I agree. But I just remembered after the hangout was over, oh, this is awesome. It happens to be a Christmas movie. Satoshi Kon's Tokyo Godfathers. And there is...
I'm sorry, what?
Tokyo Godfathers by Satoshi Kon. It's anime.
Oh, yeah. The man passed away a couple of years ago. He was a brilliant filmmaker.
He died at the age of 45 in the middle of his his current production. But anyway, Tokyo Godfathers is about like 3 homeless people that like found the baby in the trash, and the whole movie is basically their adventures of reuniting this baby to its family. It came out in 2003, and when I watched it in like 2005, there was a character named Hana, who the film calls like homo, or the F word, when like the slur when Jean, who's the drunk, who's the other homeless people, is being drunk. And so I first read her basically as a drag queen, but now I read her as a trans woman, because she said that like I was born as a mistake. God made a mistake with me. Oh, would it be great if I get to have a baby too, just like Mary, because they just came from nativity.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with that? I just go say what Caitlin Moore, who's a writer at and editor at enemyfeminist.com, just let me have my problematic favorites. You just recognize the problematic things there and say, I like the movie in spite of that. And Tokyo Godfathers is a great movie about family and how each of those characters, we learn about their backstory a little bit. And
a socialist film as well.
Yes, agreed. It's family is just like a central theme, because those 3 can create their own like little surrogate family there. They became a surrogate family figure to the baby as they're trying to find its family. And each of the other characters that they meet, the ancillary characters that meet, they have their own struggles with family. And it's just a movie that happens to take place on Christmas Eve. So it's one of those movies that happens to be Christmas, but you can just watch it year round. I saw it in the theater, actually, and was lucky to do that in like May at the Emmy Movie Festival. So yeah, so that's my answer. You just recognize the problematic things, then decide for yourself if you still enjoy the movies like that and stuff like that.
There is a great article by the AV Club, which is on the same subject. It says... it's written by Caroline Ceda in 2015. It says, if you like Return of the Jedi but hate the Ewoks, you understand feminist criticism.
That's great. That's amazing.
And that entire article just made it crystal clear for me that you can love problematic things, but you don't like that aspect of it. So I recommend everyone just AV Club, Return of the Jedi, Ewoks. It's an amazing article. They explain it better than I ever could.
And by the way, the Ewok movies are much better than the prequel trilogy. That's my opinion.
Was that your answer, Hank? Is it my turn now?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, I have to say, I'm a little bit sitting here mind blown because I haven't watched Gremlins in ages, and I never heard about the coding thing or ever picked up on it. And it made me realize the extent to which, when I say I grew up in rural Wisconsin, I didn't meet anyone who was Black until I moved away to a slightly larger city, in my early teens. I only knew white people, but nobody around me was racist. I knew of racist words because I've heard them, I'd hear them, but I don't recall anyone really expressing racist jokes to me or racist stereotypes. Like fried chicken as a stereotype, again, wasn't something I knew about until like my teens. Really big bubble I lived on. So that reminded me, just when you described that, suddenly like I had flashes of images of the film and realized, yeah, that makes sense now, but I never would have thought of it. And in terms of dealing with things that you enjoy that have bigotry or something that you now find morally repugnant, I think our generation is probably having to do that more than any other generation ever.
Yeah.
Because we have all this art, and now we're in basically, in terms of consciousness raising, this is we are the peak. Hopefully it'll get much better as we go forward. But right now, this is maybe part of the challenge of consciousness raising. We also have to not only solve the problems, but then grapple with how do we comport ourselves to the past? And I agree with pretty much everyone here. This is especially a challenge I'm facing because as I'm getting deeper into hip hop, which I really enjoy as an art form, there are some artists who have a lot of misogyny, and it's something that how do you enjoy something and then also have that in it? And what I decided was, if I ever do a rap song reaction and there's some misogyny in it, I'm just gonna put a big icon of a sad face or something in the corner because it's ruined the enjoyment of that piece of music to me. That's what it is. There's a little bit of that song now that's ruined for me forever. But the overall song I like, and I guess that's how I'm dealing with it, and it probably would apply to other forms of art and other people in history as well.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you that this is just this is part of the modern age, and how I talk to people sometimes and say, look, aren't we glad that we've progressed to the part that we could look back and say this was wrong, like, oh, okay, like, but back in the day, kind of, this isn't a Christmas movie, but Breakfast at Tiffany's, I was never aware of like anti-Japanese racism. Like that was sort of a flavor of racism I had never encountered when I first saw the movie because I was pretty young. And so I had no idea what was going on whenever Mickey Rooney got on the screen. Like I was like, why do we keep stopping the movie dead to keep talking to this weird person? Like with the bad eyesight. I don't get it. Like it wasn't funny because I had no context for why it would be funny. And from that, I do think that that I can see Steve Shives, who we mentioned before, had said bigoted humor isn't funny if you don't have some at least understanding of that bigotry. And I got to agree with him. Like I had no idea what they were doing. I just thought they were just stopping the movie for no reason at all, like just to do nothing. And it was just annoying, right? So like, I think that hopefully the idea is now we can recognize the bigotry and eventually we can get to the point where it doesn't even make any sense to us anymore. Like, so hopefully we're on that progression, but it will always be a little weird because it will always be there.
And it also becomes part of our experience of it, that discomfort, becomes part of our experience of that art. And it wasn't for maybe people in the generation it was produced for, but that's the legacy it will now carry with it. And it's the danger of putting bigotry into your art, is that as time goes by, people might stop listening to it, not because they don't like you, it's just because, you know, they don't want to be uncomfortable with all the things you say or put or show on the screen or whatever.
Yeah, it's also what you said reminded me of. There's this right-wing fallacy that the left can't meme. That's because I think the reality of the left is complicated. It requires nuance, and the right has all these opinions which are like Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's all broad. It's all it's all based on hatred and based on the common knowledge of certain denominators. But it's also, I think true art is nuanced. There's a difference. So, yeah. I personally, if you go back to Breakfast at Tiffany's, I was never really a fan because I prefer the book. I think the book is superior. And this is me saying it. Well, I love Audrey Hepburn, but yeah. But yeah, also Mickey Rooney didn't help.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Maybe we can get back into something funnier or happier again.
I had a question. If
Sure.
you're open to ones from the Peanut Gallery.
Please.
My question to the group would be, what makes a Christmas movie a Christmas movie? Because there are, as you said, you know, there's a lot of things that we've said, oh, this is a Christmas movie and this is a Christmas movie. Okay. What passes the line?
What? Okay. What's barely a Christmas movie, perhaps? So that's also what you're asking, or?
In some ways, yeah. Like the Star Wars Christmas special is barely a Christmas. Like,
so you can, I guess that's the interesting like genre of films or specials is like, well, there are other holidays. How come there's not other holiday specials? They are. I remember a claymation Easter cartoon that I watched. Not many Thanksgiving ones, some Halloween ones, but then again, there's also the whole genre of horror that just gets played on Halloween, but they're not actually like Halloween in movies. And actually, back to Nightmare Before Christmas, that's one of the like few Halloween holiday movies that isn't horror or isn't R-rated scary or stuff like that. So from what barely makes a Christmas movie, back to the original question, it takes place on Christmas. So just like Batman Returns, just like Gremlins, it takes place. What? And Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
And Die Hard. Let's not forget Die Hard. It takes place on Christmas, and so it's just part in the background. What really makes something a Christmas movie, I think, if it's has one of the themes of family, coming together as a family, or adversity, coming together as a family through adversity of some kind, whereas like the central themes of what we associate to the secular celebration of Christmas is put in the themes of the movie. I think that's what a Christmas movie is. If it has the spirit of what people would think Christmas is, and I think we can all agree that at least in the Western sense, Christmas is a family celebration holiday.
All right. I guess I differentiate a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, or this one is, or this one isn't, but I do think that Die Hard is a movie that could take place on another time. Like, you could take Christmas out of Die Hard and have essentially the same movie, whereas a lot of other Christmas movies, like, I don't think you could take Christmas out of Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, it's impossible. And even Gremlins, I think, is a satire of Christmas movies in many ways.
Gizmo was a gift. Gizmo was a gift.
Yeah. So it's, and again, I do agree that having the themes there is important, but I do think a lot of times movies will put in, and I see this in like romance, like the Hallmark romance specials that come out. It's like they sort of borrow from Christmas. They borrow sort of the themes. They borrow, it's like a little shorthand. It's an easy way to sort of say, family, warm, happy Christmas, yay, festiveness, right there, right? Like it's just, it makes it easier for them to tell the story that they're telling, but they're not really engaging with it in a deep way, and it could be done without it. Like the same romance boy meets girl story could be done in most cases, not in every case, but in many cases it's just useful to them, to the author or the person who's directing or telling the story, to use those themes, to use those iconographies, rather than, you know, they're taking from it, but they're not necessarily giving anything back. It's just useful. So I do kind of differentiate stories that really are involved with the holiday, are involved with, you know, breaking some of these ideas and thoughts and iconographies apart, and others that are just sort of borrowing off them to tell a story that is maybe a tangential at best.
But do you think that Christmas movies need to be warm and have a sense of community? Because I just remember,
no.
yeah, for something like Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, which is an amazing film.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
Oh, with David Bowie, it's really, really good. And well, it's actually a war film, and a dreadful. It's a horrible war film. Great, brilliant. But yeah, I think it's a very difficult thing to answer. If you, some of it has to do with, I think, the time where, like, sometimes just channels, like television channels, just throw on something that's cheap during the holidays, and that becomes a staple. Like It's a Wonderful Life, or in the Netherlands, I think, if you understand what I mean, that Dutch film, the Dutch animation film, which I watched, which I think turned into this staple. And in the beginning, it's like, we don't know when to broadcast it. Let's do it on Christmas because kids are watching TV. And so it becomes a tradition. And because if you look at It's a Wonderful Life, the ending is Christmas, but most of the film has nothing to do with Christmas. So, yeah, I think it's like this weird combination of factors. Sometimes it's the theme, sometimes it's the date when it takes place, and sometimes it's just because, well, the market decided it to be.
Yeah, I remember seeing Die Hard in July. You know, when I was 17, when our French exchange student came, and that was the movie we took him to see. It was Die Hard in the cinema, in the theaters.
That's a great film to see.
Yeah, it was amazing to see in the theaters. Yeah, I didn't realize at the time I was watching history, but I think for me it was a Christmas movie because I remember coming out, and that film had popularized Hollis on Christmas on Hollis. It was December 24th on Hollis Avenue in the dark when I see a man sitting with his dog in the park. It was a Run DMC Christmas song.
Yeah,
right?
Run DMC, yeah.
And you left the cinema. I left the cinema, like, in the Christmas spirit, because they had talked about, you know, New Year's, and they were playing the music all along, and it actually had a Christmas feeling. And the end, really, the ending was sort of, and it had gone through, of course, all the way through. And so even though it took place on Christmas, I saw it in July, and I came out feeling like Christmas. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's a movie that makes you feel like Christmas is a Christmas movie.
By the way, I have a T-shirt which says Nakatomi Plaza Christmas Party.
That's awesome.
1988. It also says so.
If people smile at you, you know that's the person you could spend, you know, have a beer with or something. Just want it.
Sabrina from the live chat, I think I made an interesting observation I'm going to share. A Christmas movie is like pornography. You know it when you see it.
All right.
quite good. Yeah.
Because because the trappings of the holiday spirit can also be done. Because like for Home Alone, that could have been taking place like any time a super rich family just goes on vacation and their brat kid just like is in there and is terrorizing to people down under luck that has to resort to crime because of poverty in order to like make ends meet. Now that I think about it, that makes that movie very interesting. Now, if I should rewatch it through new eyes, but Christopher Columbus did decide to have it at Christmas and dress it in like red and greens and stuff like that. And there's the family theme in Home Alone as well. So that I think like Chrissy would have said, if it makes you feel like Christmas, I guess it is a Christmas movie.
I think that it's even more than that, because I think that Kevin has he has a similar redemption arc, but to somebody's child, right? Because he's a bitter, angry little kid in the beginning who wishes his entire family would disappear. And when they do, and he doesn't know why, he thinks he's just wished them away. His original reaction is, woohoo! Like, we're going for, all right, I'm going to go make some Kraft macaroni and cheese, and I'm going to have, and he comes to understand through missing his family and missing, and being around, he comes to understand, what he misses. I think that there's like two big themes that you see. One is a pure redemption arc, and then there's another that's sort of like learning your role as part of a family person or as part of a community person, like that sort of maturity aspect where you translate yourself from just an individual out for yourself to somebody who's a part of a family or part of a community. And I think you see that one a lot. And so I'm going to actually move from there. And you can
quickly confession here for all of you friends that I feel safe with in here in this little public hangout. I'm going to confess something.
All right.
I've never watched Home Alone.
That's totally fine. You're not missing much.
If you decide to watch Home Alone and you see Home Alone 2, which I also like, Donald Trump is in that. So be
Yep.
I've also never seen Dances with Wolves, but that was bigger in the 90s than it is
I
today.
haven't seen Dances with Wolves either. I haven't seen Citizen Kane. I haven't seen Top Gun.
Wow, that's no. Dance with Wolves and Citizen Kane are good films.
Mm-hmm.
Top Gun is it's cheesy. It's different. Yeah.
I always say to people, I already seen the anime version of Top Gun, and that's Macross Plus the movie.
So I interrupted Christiosity with my confession. We got off on a tangent. Sorry.
That's all right. I guess it's a good time for confessions too.
It is.
So I'm going to ask why there's so few holiday specials in movies that are led by women or that have female protagonists. And you can feel free to think about it for a minute, but I'm right. Like it's ridiculous.
You're right.
Well, Miracle on 34th Street. There is a young lady there, but Annie is also for me a Christmas movie.
Okay.
Because I used to watch it at Christmas, but you're right though. I just gave two exceptions, but in general, it's all dudes.
Yeah,
I think the archetype is a man's story. It's Jesus' story. It's Ebenezer Scrooge's story. So we have two male archetypes, and there's no role model for a female unless you're just mimicking the male archetype. There isn't an independent sort of feminine woman sort of character that they've created a narrative around that is an independent, has her own story to tell.
Yeah, even in like Night Before Christmas, I was watching it. It's still Jack Skellington has the main character, and he's the driving force of the story and stuff like that. But at least Sally had her own agency, tried to escape several times from her captor, her creator, and stuff like that. And even though she got in a situation where she has to be the damsel to be rescued and stuff like that, she at least was so the show's interested to try to rescue Santa Claus, and was the one that predicted, or saw a prophecy that this is all going terribly wrong. And she had the Cassandra problem of no one listened to her.
Mm.
Santa too, of course, is
Yes.
male.
Yeah, I mean, there
the
are
elves.
always
And the
these.
elves.
There are always these sort of female characters, and I agree. I think a lot of times the female characters are even stand-ins for the theme, like in It's a Wonderful Life, where the main character has to reconcile himself to the way that his life is as part of this community of Bedford Falls. And I think that, you know, his wife almost represents home and warmth and family.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, a part of that is just this assumption that women don't have that arc, that they don't have to deal with that kind of becoming a part of their communities, because that's just what women are. Women are the avatars of community and motherhood and family and love, you know.
Therapy.
Yeah, there are no Bechdel passing, pieces of work that we're talking about tonight. None of them are going to pass the Bechdel test. The women in the story are always there to support the men or the boys. They don't have their independent stories.
I just thought of one, but that is only because it's happens to take place on Christmas, and Christmas is in the title. But the problem with all the female characters is that they kind of still fit in their roles and fit into archetypes and tropes, but for another genre of movies. Slasher, Black Christmas has a female lead.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I would say that the ones that have female leads are the darkest. Like, when I was trying to think of it, because I was going through all these things, and it wasn't until I was going through for this show that I was like, God, there are no women here. Like, the three I could think of, Black Christmas, and the two other that I could think of were like Little Match Girl, which is fucking dark, and the Nutcracker, which is fucking dark. Like, yes. Like, these are all like, and so these sort of, I really have no idea why we sort of attach the gothic elements to the female-led stories with sort of the really dark elements. But I don't know, maybe other people want to talk about that. It just struck me as weird.
Well, I think most of the time, if you have a people think that if you look at most stories where women are the protagonists, they're kind of scary, because I think maybe because protagonists need to have certain agency, and our society doesn't really prefer that for women.
Yeah, and look who's writing the stories.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so yeah, that's my take on it.
Another thing too is, especially with the Christmas specials, they were played for decades after they were initially made, and I looked back and watched from start to finish Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and there are parts of it that are really adorable, and then there are parts of it that I just look at it and go, like Santa has a song where he says, if you want a toy from me, come sit on my lap, and the cost of it is a kiss.
Yeah,
that's held up so well.
He's a saint. He's a saint. A Catholic
saint. Also, at one point he says, if the kids are naughty, and he makes a snowball because he's learned, blood magic from the White Wizard.
Oh, yeah,
the Winter Warlock. The Winter Warlock. Sorry, not the White Wizard. That's something else. And he makes a snowball. He's like, I'm going to be able to watch them. So what you got to go? He's like watching you all the time, and he wants you to come and sit on his lap and kiss him.
I always found that part of the song creepy anyway.
Yeah, it's very perverse. It's like peeping, peeping claws.
Well, Santa's a bit creepy.
Yeah.
What do you think about Love Actually as a Christmas film?
Haven't seen it.
Because you haven't seen it? Okay.
You guys haven't seen it?
I've heard critiques of it that the women are pretty much non-existent in that film.
I wouldn't. There are definitely more men than women. But there are, because it's a series of different uh, uh, stories that sort of interlock and intersect. I think it has its problematic elements for sure. And I think the stories that with the guys are the problematic ones more so than anybody, but
a bit creepy.
A bit creepy. Like there's some creepy stuff. The best man who's in love with his best friend's wife to be and kind of shows up at the door with, don't tell him I'm here. I'm gonna show you these weird
This is why I haven't seen Love Actually, because it's a romantic film and there's always problematic aspects in some romantic films. I think that's
If it would be realistic, you would have all these pictures. Don't tell them I'm here, and it would end with a dick pic.
Yeah,
that would be a real life.
But I overall, I think that it also had some. Yeah, I think it was good for what it was. Like it was, a romantic Christmas movie, and made a point about people having all different, love being a many-faceted thing in our world, and that's fine. Like there are worse things that you could watch.
Yeah, but it's because it kind of struck me as in at least there are some women there with some with a storyline. But yeah, still it's written by Richard Curtis, a man who I like because he wrote Blackadder. But
I love Blackadder.
Yeah.
No female characters there, but it's also the English education system, I think, at work. But
it's this industry, in the UK, comedy general.
Yeah, they had this rule now with the BBC that they need to have one female guest if they have a comedy show, at least, which I think is good. But for the longest time, the women were like, okay, now we sit there and we need to be quiet because the guys are talking. But yeah.
Baby steps.
Baby steps, exactly.
Yeah.
Can I throw a loop again? How many here have seen the one about the snowman? The we're flying through the air.
I have. It's on the playlist, people.
It is.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful animation film.
Yeah, I watched it. Well, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I hadn't sat down and watched it start to finish. I've seen pieces of it, but I hadn't seen the end. Don't want to ruin it now because too many people haven't seen it, but that was a surprise, I'll just say. And then I guess we'll have to. So.
I'll admit for myself, earlier this week, I kind of like had to yell at myself in my brain, Jonathan, you fail at nerd, you fail at geek, because I would say I'm a Rankin Bass fan because of the 1997 Hobbit movie and the 1982 classic Last Unicorn. It wasn't until earlier this week they realized, wait a minute, they did the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman?
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, I fail at geek. And I have to watch all of them and stuff like that. And so, but Frosty the Snowman was one that I remember watching as well. And I did watch it last night or earlier this week. And I still enjoyed it for what it is, definitely. The magician character, total capitalist, as like he doesn't care that the magic hat that he has, by the way, Frosty the Snowman is a golem. This magic hat is able to like animate this, create this bowl of snow to be a sentient being. He doesn't care about that. I can make millions off of this. Scheme. He forgot to twirl his mustache as he had this Natalie Whiplash mustache.
Yeah, so Rankin and Bass, they did those two that you mentioned and something like 10 other Christmas. They also did a Halloween one called the Mad Monster Party, which was also another between some of the Christmas stuff and the Mad Monster Party. That's where you get Nightmare Before Christmas from. Like it's that it is what it is.
Yeah.
So there's.
May I interject one thing? I think you didn't mean you have Frosty the Snowman, but we mean the animation film The Snowman. So not Frosty the Snowman.
No, now we're talking about Frosty.
Yeah, exactly. So that's those are two different films. For the people who are listening, You have an early 80s animation film, which is, I believe, Oscar nominated or Oscar winner, of 20 minutes about a young boy who builds a snowman, goes to bed, and then realizes that the snowman comes to life. And he takes him inside and he talks to him. And it's a magical film. It's truly beautiful.
Right. So lovely. I'm glad we clarified that. And I'm just going to...
All-stars of Christmas specials.
But I do want to get back to Rankin and Bass because they're a huge name in this. So they also did Santa Claus is Coming to Town. They did that one about the donkey and the Little Drummer Boy and the Little Drummer Boy 2. It was them. Rankin and Bass were the people who sort of headed it up. Romeo Muller did almost all of the writing for them, and there was a Japanese animation studio that did the stop motion animation. And let's see, they also did the Thundercats.
Yes, they did do Thundercats. They also did a TV movie, which I did saw, and it's been a long time since I've seen it again. Flight of the Dragons. Track it down if you can, or try to find it through other means. But Flight of the Dragons is also good. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
On that, in terms of like the Christmas special and the Rankin and Bass, I don't know how it was when you guys were growing up, but again, being out in rural Wisconsin, we had 3 channels, and it was usually CBS that had the specials, because I remember that opening bit to it. Actually, Creationist Cat sort of adapted it with the xylophone kind of thing, right? So, right, and we didn't go to the cinema that much. And so at Christmas time, these specials became like a big thing in our house. And my mom would make popcorn. Well, we get out, the TV guide and circle like which night it was going to be on and what time. So we knew we'd be home. And then it would be the time, like 6:30 or whatever, 7 o'clock, right before Charlie Brown Christmas special started. And she'd make popcorn and we'd all go in the living room and we'd watch the specials. Like that was definitely part of our Christmas ritual. So I'm wondering, when you talk about the Christmas movies, like what kind of memories are you guys bringing to them, or what were the rituals in your experiences of them?
For me, one we haven't mentioned yet, and it's also animation, but it's not Rankin Bass. How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Chuck Jones.
Love that one. Oh, I love it.
Anything by Chuck Jones. His Jungle Book. He did a Horton Hears a Hoot that's on the DVD for how the Grinch Stole Christmas. So I was like, so in my household, that was definitely a family tradition. We would even read it, and all my brothers would know the words to it, to the point where it's like, okay, my dad goes, okay, why am I reading this? You guys all know the lyrics. You can just read to yourselves and stuff like that. But we watched how the Grinch Stole Christmas. None of the other movies that even compare. We would watch, if we had the chance, we would go to the ballet and see the Nutcracker, the actual ballet, and we love the music to that. In fact, we would listen to it as we would do puzzles, and when we come to the we would do that as a family, and that was a lot of fun. I had to resist doing that when I was at the ballet. And Muppets Christmas Carol. Oh, A Christmas Story was also, it wasn't that regular on the rotation of a movie we would watch, but we love A Christmas Story. I became nostalgic for the 1950s, whitewashed middle class America in the 1950s because of that movie.
On that, just in terms of how these things get into your subconscious, I saw last week that Trump eliminated or 2 weeks in the last 10 days, he eliminated the pay rise for federal employees, saying the government didn't have enough money right before he flew to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. But my immediate reaction, I read that headline and I tweeted out my immediate reaction, which was, "You're a mean one, Mr. Trump. Yeah. You really are a hero." Because that summed it up, that moment in that song.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
No, I'm done.
That reminds me of when Clark Griswold finds out he's not getting a Christmas bonus in a Christmas Vacation, which is one of the greatest anger blowouts I've ever seen. I love that film as well, I must say. Christmas Vacation.
I need to see that one because I actually saw the first Vacation movie, but I haven't seen a Christmas Vacation. And I'm
You
hearing
haven't?
nothing.
Okay, all right.
Why am I
So,
here? I
no.
know.
No.
You should. I like it a lot. It's it's very
Randy Quaid
Right.
is in that too, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's good in that film.
Yeah, he is. He's amazing.
He's amazing.
He does. He does a character so well.
It's when Clark is just walking outside, he's taking out the trash, and there's his cousin, and he's emptying his sewage into the sewer, and he says, "I'm clearing the shitter." That's all he says, and you're like, "Oh my god!" It's that cousin you never want to see again. You can't get rid of. It's amazing. Yeah, I love that film.
This is it. You know, I think one of the things that I hadn't realized until we did the show is that every genre seems to have its own Christmas story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Christmas stories themselves are sort of a genre unto them, as we said, unto themselves. And that, yeah, obviously I know about all the pieces, but putting it together, you realize the versatility of the story. I guess maybe because it's so recognizable that it can be taken by anyone.
Is there a sci-fi or fantasy Christmas movie though, or a Christmas special?
Well, we did talk about Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Oh, I'm trying to forget that. Life Day, but yeah.
On YouTube, you have the Captain Picard "Make It So" Christmas song, which is really fun. I watched a film also. I watched a lot of films when I was a kid. My mother always went to the local blockbusters, and she came back because I had 2 weeks off, and I loved cinema films. So just two bags of films, and I was like, okay, I'll watch that. And one we always watch was it's based on a book by Astrid Lindgren. It's Ronja the robber's daughter. And it's sort of magical. It's sort of dark. It's very Swedish. It's a castle that's split in two, and the castle then gets both halves of the castle fight with each other. And she is like this little girl, and she befriends the boy from the other half of the castle. And that's what I remember. It's been, I believe, 30 years since I've seen it. But it left a great impression on me because it was magic. It was friendship. It was like you had these big guys with beards, and that was her father. I mean, it was. I thought it was amazing, and it was magical, and it was Astrid Lindgren, which I also adore. I must say.
All right. Well, all right. So I'm gonna actually let the chat ask questions or bring up anything that they want to have us talk about their favorite Christmas specials or what have you. And while they're doing that, and I'll take them down, I'm going to ask the question of what the fuck was up with Kirk Cameron's thing? Like, does anybody have a thought? Like, what the hell?
I'm out of the loop, actually.
Okay.
Oh, that film.
Background of this is Kirk Cameron made a movie called Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas. And in it, he basically tries to do apologia for why Christmas can actually be celebrated, and rationalizes the tree as being made of wood like the cross, and Santa Claus, being like Saint Nick and whatever else. And the main story or the main theme or the main message of the movie is eat, buy lots of stuff, spend lots of money because Jesus wants you to be happy. Does that kind of sum up the movie? Am I getting it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
May I say on live YouTube that he's a dick?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
I've hated that guy. I mean, I grew up with growing pains, and some background on what an asshole he is. He was okay. I need to get this off my chest. We're having confessions. This is terrible. Okay, so the guy who played his fiancée in the series, she was really nice, and they were going to get married. And then he went away, and he came back as a born again Christian. And so the person playing his fiancée, he said, "You need to fire her because she was in Playboy, and that's against my religion."
Mm.
So suddenly they just fired her, and she had to do this one scene, which is like this nonsense ending where she gets the blame for leaving him. And when I found that out, because I loved Growing Pains growing up, it's like this. It's a bit wholesome, but yeah, I grew up like in the Dutch Bible Belt. I loved it. And when I heard that, I was like, "You're such an asshole." It's And then you make a film about the meaning of Christmas. I mean, shame on you, sir. That's all I have to say about that.
Right.
Sorry, sorry.
A good thing that came out of Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas is all the reaction videos.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube. I just noticed like there's something about like I Hate Everything or whatever. One of those channels has one. There is a great. I think it was even before God Awful Movies was God Awful Movies. It was when Eli Bosnick would occasionally just sort of pop up on The Scathing Atheist and do a film review with them. They did a review of Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas, which is hilarious. So really go watch it for the reactions because people hated this movie and it's hilarious to watch them hate it. It's just brilliant. So
well, it was truly the most bizarre thing I've ever sat through. Well, one of them, like just watching him talk about like Santa Claus beating up people, like this is a good thing.
Yeah. Saint Nick's stick, his staff. He used to whoop ass with that man. He used to crack people on the head. He was a violent motherfucker.
Yeah, well, we are talking about the same guy who said you can eat a banana because it's like God's way, because you have the hand and the banana fits. And I'm like, are you saying that God doesn't want us to eat melons?
That process that humans have actually genetically engineered bananas to be longer, so they're not originally like that. We've manipulated them to look like that.
No, but
God did them like that.
Yeah.
We did.
This is when Dunning-Kruger meets toxic Christianity. It's so annoying.
Yeah, he's.
Did you sit through the whole music bit too, which apparently is like 15 minutes of the movie?
I didn't sit through it. Like I got through like I don't know, probably maybe 5 minutes of it, and just went, "This is freaking okay. Never mind." Click. You know, like what are you gonna do?
There's a group, two guys who went to see it in the cinema and then went into their car and did a reaction video, and their confusion. Just like the confusion of people immediately after watching this movie is like so hilarious. So sorry, just to push the reviews, they're really good.
But isn't it? There's this entire idea, and they're also trying this in the Dutch fascists are trying the same thing. Oh, it's a war on Christmas. It's a war on the holidays. It's a war on our Christian traditions. There was this, there was a store and says, okay, we have this bread, and normally it was called Easter bread, but now it's called holiday bread because we can sell it longer.
That's war on Easter bread.
Yeah. No, but then say, oh, it's a war on Easter. It's like a knee fall to the Islamization of the Netherlands and blah 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 blah. And it's the same thing in America. There's this so-called war going on Christmas, while the next day, the day after Thanksgiving, people are beating each other up to get a discount on their first Christmas shopping.
Black Friday.
I mean, we had in the Netherlands even we had Black Friday week. How does that work?
It just does.
We had Black Friday Monday.
It's Cyber Monday over here, or Cyber Tuesday.
No,
Cyber Monday.
We also had that. That's Cyber Monday. But Black Friday Monday is the Monday before Black Friday.
You know, just in the chat when this came up, I can't remember whose stream. Maybe it was in the last day I was on. I did mention the motto we all know, or the chant we all know. Hey, hey, ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Gotta go, go, go! we all do that at our protests.
Oh, yeah.
We did, yeah.
Constantly.
It's a favorite. It's a crowd favorite.
I mean, I don't think anybody here is particularly religious, unless I'm quite confused. It is the winter solstice. So happy winter solstice to everyone.
Sunshine.
And
These will get longer now. Yay!
Yeah, that's all I got.
I knew
We
someone
have,
who
we have a question in the chat. Which Alien movie is the best?
The first one.
Oh,
You were quick off the bat there.
That's my choice. I mean, Aliens is good, but no, for me, Aliens. Just, yeah.
I think a better question is in which genre, because I think the first one's a horror film, the second one is an action film.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
The other ones are in the shit genre. So
no. I both like. I think 3 is a bit underrated.
That's sweet. Awful.
And
I
4.
saw that. No, I sat through that shit. And that was awful.
No.
Oh, it was so boring.
I really liked it. Sorry.
Well, yeah. We can agree.
Haven't seen that yet.
Don't see it.
I've seen the Prometheus is not a good movie. Alien Covenant is slightly better, but not by much. And I only saw like bits and pieces of Alien 4, and it's just like it has Ron Perlman, but I don't think Ron Perlman will save it. And the Alien versus Predator movies are terrible.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. I see another great question, but wait a minute before we go. Christiasti, what's your favorite Alien film?
I don't have a favorite Alien film. I like Alien and I like Aliens. I didn't see 3, so yeah. So I can't really. I don't have an opinion. I liked them differently.
The first time,
yeah.
The first time I saw Aliens, the second one was I was on university campus, and it was the first time I got drunk. I wouldn't really get drunk. I was drinking like wine coolers because and we got pizza.
Wine coolers.
Yeah, when the first time, damn straight I did, because I didn't drink in high school really.
Okay.
I didn't drink till college, and they got pizzas and wine coolers, and they put on Aliens, and it was that's my first experience of the Aliens film. Memories.
I see another question in the chat, which is a really good one. I don't know if you can go to the next one, or
go for it.
Yeah, because that was from Sabrina, which is which Disney movie would make the best Christmas special? I'll go say Beauty and the Beast.
Not Frozen. Come on.
Oh.
Let it go.
Yeah, let it go. It's about families as well. So families we established one of the things you can have a central theme to be in a Christmas movie that makes it Christmassy, and so Frozen's
right. Doesn't it have some sort of reindeer-esque beast? I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah, there's reindeer. I love the fact that the reindeer was not talking, yet how he looks and how the other character talk for that reindeer, it makes it look like the reindeer is talking. So I love how they subvert their talking animals trope. They had talking gnomes and magical creatures, though, so they still couldn't keep the talking animals out of their Disney movie. But I did.
Flip it on its head, Moana.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah. We got to remember the Southern Hemisphere also has Christmas. It's just like it's really warm for them.
Well, it's not in the Southern Hemisphere though.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's around Hawaii, right, or not?
Polynesians? I don't know.
But definitely,
wait a minute. No, if it's Samoa, because then it's the Southern Hemisphere, right? I don't really know.
Yeah, Hawaii.
Yeah.
You're asking an American geography. Come on.
Sabrina said, "Yes, I want a Moana Christmas special now." So
that would be amazing. Yeah.
Manuel Miranda, of course.
Yes. There was another question earlier into the chat. What about Miracle on 34th Street from 1995? I have not seen the 1995 one.
It's also good.
Okay.
Yeah. It's with what's her name from I love her. I follow her on Twitter. She's great. Mara Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Rob Lowe.
Guys, I'm gonna have to go in 10 because I have to set up OBS still for Kevin, and we need to run a test before our show.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right. We have from Adam our Christmas specials, The Meaning of Life. I'm gonna go with no, but they certainly are interested in the meaning of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Could The Meaning of Life be a Christmas movie?
I say Life of Brian is, in my opinion, but because there's a bit of a nativity in the very beginning, but that's about it.
And Shannon asks, why does Merry Christmas have to go? I don't know. I'll tell a ridiculous story, because I do know all about the sort of, if you've ever worked in retail, and I have, and I've done that around Christmas, and I think that you should just like don't have what Walmart says on its decorations be your fucking. It doesn't matter. Like if it made them money, like Target or any of these malls would say, go suck a tailpipe, it's fucking Christmas. Like if that was what it took to make money, that's what they would put. But because, you know, Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas does the job better, that's what we get. So that's good. That's fine. Like, but it's, so I'm at this store and there's Christmas decorations up, sort of the generic, there's wrapped gifts and little jingle bells and whatever. And so I see this little girl, probably 6 or 7, and she's looking at these, and stupid fucking me, I gotta open my big mouth and say, oh, is Santa gonna come and give you presents? And her mother's there, and her mother's like, I'm glad you asked this. This is a good teachable moment. And she brings the little girl over to stare at me and explain that she doesn't celebrate Christmas and that Santa Claus doesn't come to her house. And the whole time she's staring daggers at me like, we celebrate Hanukkah. You bitch, you had to do this, didn't you? Like, and I'm like, yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, so it's just, you know what? The people who work in retail don't want to have your fucking deal with this Christmas issue. They just want to do their job. So just leave us alone with the Merry Christmas and all that, you know?
Did they talk about the Christmas armadillo? The Friends episode, for those who've seen it.
I remember now.
All the Santa costumes were sold out, so he's like, I need to teach you about the meaning of Hanukkah, and he was dressed as an armadillo.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Sorry, I was just reminded of it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I worked in retail too. I don't care. I don't care about your standard jokes. Every time it's like, we like a bag with that. And I said, no, I'll eat it here. I was working at a CD at a record store. And the first time you hear it, it's like, fun. But everyone has the same joke. It's don't joke with people who are just here to help you with your stuff.
Yeah.
I worked at a gas station for 4 years. And so not only do I sometimes get the jokes, I will get the complaints about the gas prices.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, thankfully you set them because because your job.
I said the same thing. I was working at this really large chain, and this guy said, well, you're really expensive. And I'm like, dude, if I could make the price, do you think I would stand here talking to you? He said, well, it's cheap around the corner. I said, well, go there. I'm not...
I would have
paid less or more if you buy it. Just go away.
I would have been like, well, sir, thank you very much for the compliment, but you haven't asked me my rates yet.
Well, nice. Yeah.
You can't afford me. Anyway, so on that Merry Christmas message, if we have missed your question, I am very sorry. But I want to wish everybody a happy holidays and happy New Year and Merry Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and the solstice and everything else you could possibly think of.
Tip-top tat and a very solemn Ramadan.
Ditto.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.